On Tech News Today, the Beats music service is being baked into every iPhone and iPad. Plus, Gorilla Glass is now stronger than ever. Firefox dumps Google Search, and a new tool finds government spyware on your PC. All that and more coming up right now.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Thursday, November 20th, 2014. This episode is brought to you by Prosper. Prosper is a peer-to-peer lending marketplace that connects people who are looking to borrow money with those who have money to lend. Visit prosper.com/twit and receive a $50 Visa prepaid card when you get a loan. Tech News Today is a show where we talk about the tech news with the journalists who reported. Welcome to the show. I'm Mike Elgan, and good morning, Anthony Nielsen.
Morning, Mike. How you doing?
I'm doing great. We have an action-packed news show today. It's going to be amazing stuff. It will astound you when you hear what we have to report to you. We'll start it with the first news coming from Apple. Apple will bake the Beats music service right into iOS early next year, according to an exclusive in the Financial Times. The integration makes the little-used service that came with Apple's $3 billion Beats acquisition available to hundreds of millions of iPhone and iPad users. The move is a direct challenge to streaming music leader Spotify. Financial Times reporter Tim Bradshaw joins us now to talk about this exclusive. Welcome to you, Tim.
Hi there. How's it going?
It's going great, thank you. Now, Spotify has 10 million subscribers, roughly. I think they have more than that. Do we know how many of those are Apple hardware owners?
I don't know if they've broken that out, but certainly they. I guess when you get to that kind of scale, it's gonna average out to the kind of marketplace. But so certainly a few million, and they have 50 million registered users who listen to a certain amount of music or radio for free as well. So we're certainly talking about a lot of Spotify users on iOS right now.
Yeah, and when you compare Apple's 200 million active iTunes customers to Spotify's 10 million subscribers, it seems like a wild imbalance, but there's nothing in this that guarantees success for Apple, is there?
No, I mean, there's always that kind of, I guess, assumption that just because something's being bundled with a product that many people already have, whether it's Word and Windows or Google bundling messaging with its phones or something like that, that it will immediately kill the competition. It doesn't always quite work like that. Facebook have been trying to kill Snapchat for quite a while with varying degrees of failure. So no, it's not an automatic guarantee of success, but iTunes is so dominant already in the music industry. It's maybe not as lucrative as it used to be for Apple, and downloads in general are in decline. So it needs to make this kind of handbrake turn into streaming pretty fast, and that's why it's trying to push it out to everybody all at once. And just to be clear, I think on the it may take some time geographically for that rollout to happen. We expect it'll start in the States, but they're certainly looking for an international push on this, which would take Beats beyond its own US market for the moment.
Clearly, the Beats headphone brand has some cachet in the market, but the Beats music brand has significantly less so, and therefore Apple is going to have to be relying on features, I guess. Is there any feature advantage to Beats over Spotify?
Well, we're actually expecting it will be rebranded as iTunes as part of this, and so the Beats music brand will go away, and it will maintain that brand for the headphone side of the business. I think what Tim Cook at Apple has said he really liked about the Beats service when they acquired it is that it has a greater amount of human curation in the way that playlists are put together, or the kind of music is selected for prominence, whereas Spotify has some of that, and there's a bunch of apps that you can use that plug into it that will give you recommendations from music magazines or writers. But in general, it's kind of a little bit more algorithmic in what it surfaces for you, whereas Beats has this roster of musicians and celebrities from Dr. Dre on down that are kind of picking their favorites, and it's that human element and that tastemaker element that I think Apple is kind of looking to as a differentiator.
Speaking of tastemakers, do you think Taylor Swift will like this better than she likes Spotify?
Well, she didn't pull her music off Beats, as far as I'm aware. So it does seem to be a bit of a kind of ideological battle with Spotify as her main target. So, but Apple's relationship with the music industry has always been a lot stronger. Spotify, although the major record labels are all shareholders in the company, its relationship with artists has always been somewhat rocky, and there have been questions for years about the overall economics of the service and whether individual artists, whether it's Lady Gaga or Taylor Swift, get enough money back from that service. Apple made a big show of getting U2 up on stage at its September launch of the iPhone and the Apple Watch, and somewhat controversially pushing its new album out to everybody who had an iPhone, whether they wanted it or not. And that was part of an attempt to, reestablish that link between Apple and the music business, which goes back to the original iPod more than 10 years ago.
I guess when Tim Cook actually touched Bono's finger, that was the establishment of that link. Tim Bradshaw's at ft.com, and you can follow him on Twitter at Tim. Thanks for joining us, Tim.
Thanks for having me on.
All right. In just a sec, we're going to tell you about the new improved Gorilla Glass, but first I want to tell you about our sponsor today, which is Prosper. Prosper is the first peer-to-peer lending marketplace in the United States. It enables people to invest in each other in a socially rewarding way. Here's how it works. Borrowers can list loan requests ranging from $2,000 to $35,000, and then lenders can choose a loan to invest in. They can invest in as little as $25. The choice in which loans to invest can be based on credit scores, ratings, and histories, but also personal loan descriptions, endorsements from friends, and community affiliations. Once investors and borrowers are matched, Prosper services the loan. More than $2 billion has been borrowed through Prosper, and borrowers enjoy low fixed rates and easy application, no teaser rates or hidden fees or any of that stuff. So if you're thinking about borrowing money, check your low rate instantly without affecting your credit score at prosper.com/twit. For a limited time, Prosper is offering Twit viewers a $50 Visa prepaid card when you get a loan. Go to prosper.com/twit. It's a special site just for the Twit Army, up to $35,000 in just 5 days, and a $50 Visa prepaid card. Go to prosper.com/twit. Corning announced today Gorilla Glass 4, which is twice as tough as the competing glass technologies, according to Corning. The company claims that when dropped from a height of 1 meter, which is about 3.3 feet, Gorilla Glass 4 has an 80% survival rate. Don Chmielewski is a senior editor for Recode and joins us to talk about this story. Hey, Don, how you doing?
Great, Mike. I'm wondering if they use the same computer animation as in the film version of Planet of the Apes. Do you notice? I don't know that I can find any dancing apes if found in the wild. What do you think?
I think that's definitely not Andy Serkis doing the whatever it is, they wearing the suit or whatever. Right. And they need some weapons and body paint and stuff like that if they're really going to pull this off. But okay. Yeah, the gorilla back in the old days, Samsonite used to use real gorillas, by the way. That's still an option, I guess. Now, Corning brags about being twice as shatter resistant as the competition, but there isn't really any competition, is there? For major smartphone manufacturers, they all use Gorilla Glass, don't they?
Well, that's an interesting question. Since 2007, Corning has really remade the cover glass market. Its products are featured in Apple products. Steve Jobs actually was the one who prominently found a first application for Gorilla Glass to harden the glass surfaces of its iPhones, and it's also used in Samsung smartphones and tablets. But Corning is beginning to feel a bit of pressure globally. It actually reported lower sales this second quarter because it's getting squeezed on the low end from other makers of less expensive types of cover glass, and potentially on the higher end by sapphire glass, which is a technology that's showing some prominence, although a recent bankruptcy by one of Apple's would-be suppliers suggests that it's a challenge to do in volume.
Yeah, that's GT Advanced Technologies, and that was a big scandal. There's been a lot of press about that, and it's a really interesting example of why you don't want to mess with Apple as a supplier, because they will crush you. Now, I love Corning's drop test. They actually dropped this thing on a very hard surface, but on the cover of that surface is 180 grit sandpaper. So they're not just dropping this on a smooth surface. They're trying to simulate not only what can happen with shattering, but what can happen with scratching when you drop it, which is a pretty cool test. Now, back to Sapphire. Now, everybody expected Apple to have, the iPhone 6s to have Sapphire, and that didn't happen for the reasons you specified. But is Sapphire going to take over the industry? For example, is Corning going to become a Sapphire manufacturer?
Well, Corning did speak about doing some tests, although they've not announced anything about dabbling in this new material. They did not say anything like that in their conversations with me.
Okay, very interesting. Now, and do you have any sense of when Apple might sort of ramp up Sapphire manufacturing? I mean, they pretty much don't have they're keeping the plant, but I don't think they're keeping as a Sapphire plant, right? I mean, they're kind of like sort of on the fence about where they go from this point on after GT's bankruptcy.
You know, it would be unusual for Apple to take over the manufacture of components. I don't know if it's unprecedented, but it's certainly not their current business model. So I would be surprised to see that as an outcome.
All right. Well, Dawn Chmielewski is at recode.net, and you can follow her on Twitter at DawnC331. Thanks for joining us, Dawn.
Thanks, Mike.
All right. Firefox is switching the default search engine from Google Search to Yahoo Search for U.S. users. Mozilla, which makes the Firefox browser, signed a 5-year deal for the search engine that starts next month. Details weren't disclosed, but the relationship is a revenue-sharing agreement that includes certain unspecified guarantees, according to Yahoo CEO Marissa Mayer. Stephen Shankland is a senior writer for CNET News and joins us now from Paris. Welcome to you, Stephen.
Thank you.
I tried to get you off to dinner. You have an early American-style dinner in Paris while the Parisians are eating at all hours of the night. So I'll try to make this short and sweet. Mozilla is struggling to grow the Firefox market share. Do you think that abandoning the world's most popular search engine is going to hurt them in that effort?
Well, actually, I asked their chairman, Mitchell Baker, about what this would do to their financials, and she was very confident that they would be just fine. So first of all, the deal is only happening in the United States, so Google will still be used in many parts of the world, including Europe. So Google is not totally out. This is just a United States deal. But the risk is that if you have lower search volume, then advertisers aren't going to place as many search ads there. And so when people perform searches with Firefox, there isn't going to be as much ad revenue generated. That ad revenue is what supports Firefox. For example, in the most recent year, they released figures for 2012 that search advertising from Google chiefly produced the lion's share of their $311 billion revenue. So it's a big deal for Firefox, but they do still have, a lot of money coming in from the search deal.
Now, we don't know the details of the Yahoo deal, and I'm really curious about what that might be. I mean, this is a 5-year deal. The previous deal was with Google for a 3-year deal. Do we know anything about the Google deal? Like how much? What was that relationship like? Where did the money go? What was exchanged to make that deal?
So the way this works is Firefox sends search traffic to a search engine. And 2 years ago, when Firefox renewed its deal with Google, it went to a global deal. So it signed up a deal where Google was the search provider across the whole world. Firefox and Mozilla didn't like that. They wanted more flexibility. So that was one of the reasons they changed. Another reason was they wanted to be able to innovate better. And a partnership with Yahoo seems to be easier for them for reasons they wouldn't go into, but they can do, they think they can tailor the search experience within Firefox better with Yahoo as a partner. One specific area they mentioned is integrating searching your personal information with searching information on the internet. And obviously, Google has, if you're part of the Google ecosystem, they kind of have that all locked up seamlessly. It might be that Yahoo is willing to be a bit more open in that regard.
Now, just to get a state of the market at this point, Yahoo and Firefox have something in common, which is that they each have 10% market share. Yahoo has 10% market share, according to ComScore, and Firefox has 10% of the browser market, according to StatCounter. Chrome, by contrast, the leading brand, has about 1/3 of the market. In the search world, Google in the United States has about 67% of the market. Microsoft has about 20%. I imagine, and of course, Firefox has deals in China with Baidu and in Russia with Yandex. Those are the two Googles of those respective countries. What about Europe? Is Yahoo going to stick with Google in Europe?
So far, Mozilla is going to stick with Google in Europe. In Europe, Google's market share of search is actually higher than in the United States. So it's about 2/3 share in the U.S. In Europe, I haven't seen recent numbers, but it's something closer to 90%. And the chief search technology rival, which is Bing, which powers not only Microsoft Search, but also powers Yahoo Search, it's much weaker in Europe than it is in the United States for various technological and business reasons. So it's not surprising to me that Mozilla chose to stick with Google in Europe. I asked whether this newfound geographic freedom might mean they're going to switch more more geographies to Yahoo. And they said for now they're sticking with what they have. So they clearly are leaving the door open for more changes in the future. But I think Google will stay the choice in Europe, at least for the next few months or years.
Makes sense. Stephen Shankland is at cnet.com, and you can follow him on Twitter at STShank. Thanks for joining us, Stephen.
Thank you.
All right, the human rights group Amnesty International has released a tool for Windows that can find spyware used by governments around the world to monitor activists and political opponents. It's called Detect, and that's spelled D-E-T-E-K-T. And it finds spying tools that harvest webcam pictures or listen in on laptop microphones. The tool was built in collaboration with Amnesty International, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, Privacy International, and Digitali Gesellschaft. I'm sure I didn't say that right. Spying software has been found on the computers of activists in Bahrain, Syria, Ethiopia, Vietnam, Germany, Tibet, North Korea, and many, many other nations. And so we'll see if this can help. You can get it yourself. Go to the Amnesty International site and you can find that tool. Try it yourself. Again, this is only for now, just for Windows users. Google plans to launch a version of the Google Play App Store in China, according to an exclusive on the information by Amir Efrati. About 1/2 of the world's Android users are in China, yet the Google Play App Store is currently unavailable there. Amir Efrati joins us now. Hey, Amir. Thanks for joining us.
Good to be here.
Now, I'm uncertain about this fact that I just stated with so much certainty. Half Android users are in China. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, the vast majority of mobile users, smartphone users in China are using Android. Apple is certainly there, but it's pretty small, and it is the largest mobile market in the world. So, yeah, you've got quite a lot of Android users there, and it's really eating Google up inside that it is not participating in that ecosystem. So they are planning to go back in and for the first time launch the Google Play App Store in that market. A lot of complications, but that's what they are telling a lot of their potential partners.
Well, those complications are probably the most interesting part. Your exclusive revealed Google's plans, but what about the Chinese government's plans? I mean, they're not exactly BFFs right now, and this all stems from a series of accusations from 2010. Can you sort of quickly characterize what happened that soured that relationship?
Yeah, so as you might recall, in late 2009, there were a series of cyber attacks that emanated from China. It's called the Aurora attacks, and it successfully penetrated Google systems, and Google claims that some proprietary information was stolen. They pointed the finger at China and implied that it was the Chinese government that was responsible. The Chinese government completely denied that, was very angry. And they've had kind of an interesting back and forth on a number of other cyber security related issues since then. So the relationship has been tense, but many Googlers, including Eric Schmidt and folks from the Android team, have gone to China frequently over the past few years to have very substantive conversations, both with government representatives and with potential partners like Huawei and ZTE, who could distribute the App Store. That's really the first step that they've always wanted to take. They know they can't get Google Search back in there in the way that they'd like. They know they can't get YouTube back in there, but they want to participate in the Android ecosystem because for a number of reasons. First of all, they want to influence this giant market. They want to at least try to make some revenue on the mobile side from there. But more importantly, as the domestic app stores, the domestic Android app stores like Baidu and Tencent and Wanduja and all these other guys take over app distribution inside of China, there is a growing concern that they could actually expand outside of China and have influence outside of China because they're so big there. So Google really wants to play in that playground and have an influence now.
Great exclusive. Amir Efrati is at theinformation.com, and you can follow him, and you should follow him on Twitter at Amir, A-M-I-R. Thanks for joining us, Amir.
Thanks for having me.
All right. We got some email from Kevin Quincy, who said that on your October 17th show, you mentioned the Apple multi-carrier SIM, and were disappointed that Apple hasn't spoken more about it. Well, I checked with an Apple employee, and I think the reason why is that the major networks are already actively working to kill the functionality of it. It works one time as advertised by Apple. In other words, you can choose the plan and carrier you want from a dialog box on the iPhone. And the SIM is multi-carrier, meaning that you could use it on any of the carriers in the U.S. But as soon as you register with a carrier, that carrier, at least AT&T or one or two other big ones, will burn the SIM and ensure you can never use it again by another carrier. If that's true, I hope you'll report on it, because that just feels wrong to me. Thank you so much for that email, Kevin. It feels wrong to me as well, and we're hearing also that AT&T is doing that. I'm not aware of other carriers, and if any of you watching are aware of other carriers that are doing this, locking the SIM to that carrier after you set it up with that carrier, please let us know. But I have heard that AT&T is in fact doing that. And of course, this is something, lock-in is something that is a major part of the wireless carrier business plan. It's just one of the problems. The other one is the sort of 2-year contract lock-in, which sort of buries the various costs, and they subsidize the phone, but of course you pay for that over the period of the 2-year contract and then some. And so there are multiple things like that the carriers use to kind of like get you to lock, because if you're not locked in, then they actually have to compete on features, on coverage, on price, and so on, and they would much rather not compete on those attributes and instead get you locked in and sort of keep you around for a couple of years at least. So yeah, that feels wrong to me too, Kevin. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. So we have now officially reported on it. Well, a few updates for you. Amazon Fire tablet owners will be getting a new Washington Post app with 6 months of free content. After the 6 months are over, users can pay $1 a month for the next 6 months. The app features a pinch view that mimics the experience of flipping through an actual newspaper. Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos bought the Washington Post just over a year ago. So just to be clear, Amazon doesn't own the Washington Post. Jeff Bezos personally owns it. And of course, he's the CEO and founder of Amazon. Android and iOS versions of the app are expected for next year, but they won't get the sweet deal. They have to pay $3.99 a month. Contract manufacturing giant Foxconn plans to spend $2.6 billion on a new factory in Taiwan that will build Apple displays exclusively. The factory will be built by Foxconn's display unit, which is called Inlux, and they'll hire 2,300 people to work in it. Alibaba founder and executive chairman Jack Ma said today that the company plans to set up an international version of its Taobao marketplace. Taobao isn't a household name in the United States or Europe, but it's already one of the world's top 10 most visited websites and offers close to 1 billion products for sale. It's been compared to eBay and Amazon. A U.S. auction of airwaves licenses is going to be the most expensive ever. Winning bids in the FCC Spectrum Auction yesterday hit $24.2 billion. The AWS-3 airwaves will be used for mobile broadband data connections to smartphones and tablets mostly. Well, in other news, Motorola unveiled yesterday a $25 fob called the KeyLink, which helps you page your keys from up to 100 feet away to find them using an app for iOS or Android. Or you can use the key fob to page your phone. Motorola says the battery lasts a year, and of course, if you lose both your keys and your phone, Motorola can't help you. Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak got a job. The bored billionaire genius has joined a new company called Primary Data, and he'll work as their chief scientist. Primary Data was launched by the founders of Fusion.io, where Woz previously worked as chief scientist before Fusion was bought by SanDisk last year for over $1 billion. Primary's data business will be in data center virtualization, which is a lot more boring than working at Apple, I would imagine. A TGI Fridays restaurant in Manchester, UK is testing the use of drones that fly around inside the restaurant, dangling clumps of mistletoe over the heads of unsuspecting couples. This sounds like a terrible idea. First of all, your deep-fried food is going to get cold because those fans are going to be blowing some heavy wind on them, as you can see from the video if you're watching. And second of all, they could fall out of the sky there and sort of shred people, even though it looks like they're trying to cover the blades a little bit with pieces of plastic. I don't know. This is not going to end well. I don't like this at all. Well, our TNT fan of the day is Vinny Bracco in Waikoloa, Hawaii, who watches the show on his 70-inch Sharp Aquos TV and listens through his giant Carver speakers. What a sweet deal that is. Wow. Plus, he lives in Hawaii. How do you watch or listen to TNT? Just record a video or take a picture of yourself or your setup and post it on Google+, Twitter, or Facebook, and use the hashtag HowIWatchTNT, and that's how we'll find it. That is the tech news today. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check it out. Subscribe. It's really, really an awesome way to get Tech News Today. Or you can find another way to subscribe at twit.tv/TNT. You can follow us on Twitter at Tech News Today TV. And please send us your thoughts and opinions. Send email to tnt@twit.tv or leave voicemail at 260-TNT-SHOW. And don't miss our evening newscast, Tech News Tonight, at 4 p.m. Pacific tonight and every weeknight right here on the Twit Network. My name's Mike Elgan. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.